Hello everyone, Jace here. The new main box for Duel Links, Cross Dimension, comes out on April 30th, and I'll be going over it and giving some of my pre-release thoughts. First up, I'll be going over the Fluffles, Edgems, and Frightfurs that are releasing. The Frightfur deck overall has a lot of its good cards from the TCG. It has the consistency from Dog searching everything in the archetype, along with Bear and Owl, which are both in Sora's level ups. Alongside Toy Vendor, the deck should have amazing consistency and should be able to easily set up OTKs just like in the TCG, especially with the new skill, Edgem Assist, which just mills any Edgem from the deck. Frightfur Fusion is also amazing and is searchable with Edgem Chain, which is also in the box, meaning that you should all be able to field 2 to 3 fusions for an OTK extremely easily. The main issue with the deck, however, is that it is lacking any good in-archetype disruption if it has to go first. Overall, the Frightfur cards in the box are extremely good, and the deck will be an extremely consistent OTK deck going second. But its lack of good turn 1 out of archetype cards like TTH and Book of Moon really bring it down. Also, as a funny side note, you can run Tour Guide in the Underworld in the deck since Sabers is a level 3 Fiend and use that as a rank 3 enabler. Next up is the DD support. First, I'll be going over DDD, Super Doom King Armageddon. It's an amazing boss monster that's pretty easy to make in the current version of DDD that's meta. The deck was definitely lacking a good spot removal before that wasn't slow like Dark Contract of the Witch, and this Xyz really does help shore up that weakness. The protection is also really good and helps against the plethora of destruction effects in the meta. Moving on to the next DDD card is DDD Oblivion King Ragnarok. It's pretty good as a one-off as a searchable way to deal with monsters like Melodious Bloom Diva and other indestructible monsters that Xyz Armageddon can't deal with. One underrated card that I haven't seen people mention is DD Savant Thomas. Being able to recover one pen monster from the extra deck is extremely helpful, and it's another useful scale to have in the deck. So overall, the new DD support is really good and helps patch up some of the weaknesses of the current deck. The deck is already a tiered threat, and this support might just push them a tier above what they are right now. Next up is the Ancient Gear support. The new Ancient Gear support helps the deck a lot with certain weaknesses that plagued it before. But before I talk about some of the new cards, I have to bring up the new skill that was leaked for the deck. Battle Ancient Gear is extremely good skill. Giving a free normal summon of an Ancient Gear Golem is great, and the second effect helps out a ton in giving a free poly that you don't need to put in your deck to bring out the fusions like Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Both effects are also able to be used in the same turn, if I'm reading the translation correctly, meaning that you can actually summon Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem consistently now. Speaking of fusions, the new box will also bring Ancient Gear Hunting Hound, which helps bring out fusions without using poly, and the best target to bring out turn 1 is Ancient Gear Howitzer. Ancient Gear Howitzer really helps a lot since Ancient Gears had a non-existent turn 1 before, so this gives them a great going first option that's hard to get rid of without triggering the floating effect to search an Ancient Gear card. One Howitzer on the field should be enough to just survive turn 1 and give Ancient Gears a chance to OTK on turn 3. So overall, the new skill and the new support are extremely good, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ancient Gears get a resurgence in the meta. Next up is the Magician / Odd Eye support. First up, I'll be going over the leaked skill, Shang-Ke and Shang-Shun. It's basically an Odd Eyes version of Commander the Doom King, and basically just does everything by setting up scales for free. The new scales in Shang-Ke and Shang-Shun are fine in the box as one-offs, but you'll mostly be using them from the skill. Shang-Ke is notable for being disruption though, against only light monsters. Next is the big boss monster, Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon, which is honestly still just kind of a huge meme. You have to clog your deck with a lot of rank 4 perform pal enablers with the skill, but the skill at least turbos out the scale, so it is easier to bring out. The real star is actually the generic rank 7, Volo Phrynigus, the Darkest Dragon Doom Rider. It gives the deck an actual turn 1 play as a quick play pop now, so they won't just be setting a bunch of big beaters as defense. So overall, the Odd Eye support is pretty bad, honestly, but like the skill more than makes up for it by giving them a bunch of options, and the generic rank 7 finally gives them a good turn 1 play. Next up, Super Heavy Samurai is finally getting some support as well. First up is Super Heavy Samurai Warlord Susanwo. This card is a great new boss monster that allows you to steal your opponent's spells and traps. This gives Super Heavy Samurai access to cards like Book of Moon, TTH, and Floodgate, which were previously not really possible to play in the deck. Super Heavy Samurai Scales is also really good in helping to get to Shusan Woe, and can actually help turbo into a rank 4 suite for the deck. The Pendulum, however, are not so great. Their effects are just too low impact, and they don't really do much, so they really shouldn't be run in the deck. So overall, the support doesn't really change the deck much. Like, Stealth Ninja OTK is probably still the best way to play the deck and the main way you'll win most of your games, but the new cards do give some more versatility for the deck and give it a new boss monster to actually go into. Lastly, for the Archetype King support, Yosenjus get only one really notable support card, which is Orochi Channeling, but that one card is all they really need. It's incredibly helpful for the Pendulum version of the deck by making it more consistent by searching any level 5 or higher, and it also sets all your scales to make Pendulum Summon even more accessible for the deck. So overall, the current best version of the Yosenjus, which is just a normal summon Kama version, doesn't change much, but the Pen version gets a huge boost from this new support. And finally, we have the generic cards. I will only be going over the ones I find interesting and not every single one, or else this video would just be way too long. Up first is Fusion Transcription, and it's a good way to search any fusion material monster listed specifically on a fusion monster. Like, it's really good fusion support, but I have seen people suggesting that you play it to search Alistair the Invoker in Invoke decks. But honestly, I don't think that's really that good, because the Alistair you search from this card can't be summoned during the same turn you activate it, and it can't be set either, so you won't be able to get the Invocation search either way. So overall, it's a good deck for certain fusion decks, but like for specifically Invoked, I don't really think it's going to be that good. Next up is Dimension Swipes. It's an interesting card for certain decks like Magnets and Ritual Beast, since they can activate it as a quick play pop on your opponent's turn. And being a banish for any Xyz deck is pretty neat, but you'd probably be better off with Book of Moon or Forbidden Chalice if you want to use it that way. I don't think there's really that many Xyz decks that can actually use it as a quick play disruption on your opponent's turn by summoning a monster on their turn. So overall, like, you're probably better off using more versatile cards than this for Xyz decks. But it's certainly an interesting text for other decks like Magnets and Ritual Beast that actually do summon a lot on their opponent's turn. And one funny thing is also that it activates when your opponent gives you a monster, like with Lava Golem, Santa Claus, or Volcanic Queen. And that's a perfect segue into my next segment, which are the selection box exclusive that are finally getting printed. So Volcanic Queen, Breakthrough Skill, and Aether are finally getting printed, so that means free-to-play players can actually have access to these cards now, which is pretty good. All three cards have seen some play in certain decks, so it is good that we're finally getting to be able to use them without spending money. And the final staple I'll be going over is Punch in the Box, which is really not that great, honestly. It's pretty slow being a battle trap, and honestly it's just worse than other better battle traps that don't really see much play, like Drowning Mirror Force and Jelly Cannon. So overall on generic cards, this box is kind of lacking in mostly good ones. It's mostly archetypal support. So if you're looking for good generics to get, I would say skip it unless you want to get the Breakthrough Skill that was a selection box exclusive before. And that's it for my review of Cross Dimension. So overall, this box is really good and actually gives a bunch of support for older decks to help them enter the meta and help them keep up. So comment down below what you think of the new box, and if you like this content and would like to see more of it, please like and subscribe. But that's all for today's video. Until then, see you guys next time. Goodbye.